Hey guys, Sink here. Today we're going to be discussing a very important topic. It's dopamine. Its effect on the body, especially when it comes to things like porn, masturbation, even just things like eating really good food, playing video games, etc. We're going to talk about how it can make you feel amazing, also how it can make you feel like shit, and how to maximize your dopaminergic system, get the most out of your motivation, get the most out of your well-being. I feel like this is one of the most important topics that I've researched recently, so stay tuned and hopefully you learn something. So today we're going to be discussing dopamine. Just for a little bit of background, so dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a role in the pleasure reward system. It's got a lot of other purposes though, things like motivation, memory, attention, sleep, arousal, mood, learning. What we care about today is largely the impact that it has on really anticipation and craving. And so when you think about your reward system, there's really two things going on. Dopamine is like wanting it or craving it, where your body actually has ways of making these natural, like opiate, like morphine-like substances that are actually delivered that actually give you the real sense of pleasure. That dopamine does give you pleasure, but it's more so that anticipation, that craving. So dopamine is wanting it. Opiates are when you actually like it, like the internal opiates, that is. Okay, once again, opiate meaning like a morphine-like drug. And so, for example, when you are hungry, okay, you're hungry, your dopamine levels start to rise, okay? Then you see a burger place, dopamine level starts going up some more. You go inside, you smell the burgers cooking, you see them on the grill, dopamine rising, to the point where you take your first bite, where it peaks, and then it goes down slowly thereafter, okay? So that's like the role that dopamine plays with it. It does make you feel good, it does make you feel happy, but it's really that motivation which has come out in more recent literature. And so this is from an evolutionary standpoint, like, you know, if you are alive and you want to go get food and you are able to trap food or find food, and then you get a reward for finding that food or for procreating, it's something that is an evolutionary advantage to have that dopamine reward system. Really, dopamine is related to the motivation and craving. And so just to be clear, even without dopamine, you can still enjoy things. And so that's what one of the problems with society is today, is that everything is so quick to get, like porn, McDonald's. You will still enjoy that even if your dopamine system is messed up, but it can cause serious mental health issues and actually serious health issues as well. That leads into like how we are up our dopamine system. And so the problem is overindulgence. We have all of these highly pleasurable things in our society, like social media, pornography, masturbation, video games. All of these things play on your dopaminergic system, and that's how they get you kind of, you know, not hyperbole here, but, you know, addicted to it. The problem is, like Andrew Huberman said, is that pleasure experienced without prior requirement for pursuit is terrible for us. And so we're able to engage in all these very highly pleasurable activities without really working for it, and that's screwing up our dopaminergic system, okay? So one of the things that I wanted to touch on today is masturbation. And so just to be clear, guys, I am not no fat. I am not saying that porn is categorically bad, but it is a very potent stimulus. And so you have to be careful with anything that is going to cause extremely high peaks in your dopaminergic system. When you are masturbating or having sex for that matter, your dopamine levels are going to slowly and gradually rise until they peak at orgasm, and then they're going to come back down afterwards. What's important to note is that after orgasm and after climax, your dopamine levels actually fall below the normal baseline level. The problem is that you are engaging in masturbation, you are clicking from different video to different video, and so your dopamine, it loves novelty, it loves these new videos, ideas, and so you're clicking on, you know, ooh, busty MILFs, ooh, you know, three-way, ooh, you know, all these different topics, and you're just getting all these pings of dopamine, and it's literally depleting your dopamine system. Then finally, you end up, you know, masturbating to climax. You are basically triggering your brain to enjoy voyeurism, basically. You're taking your normal sexual experience, which should be like you with your partner, and you're training your brain sexually to like the idea of watching other people do that. So you're screwing up your own body's, you know, internal system for sexual pleasure. And then on top of that, when you are masturbating and you're orgasming, just in general, so let's just say with sex, there's other hormones that are secreted like prolactin, and these are different bonding hormones that make you literally feel like you are bound to the person that you are engaging with. When you have that lack of partner, you're just pleasuring yourself, you get that prolactin release and some of these other hormones, but you don't have a real partner, and it can leave you with this sense of emptiness. And also, once again, your dopamine levels are dropping below baseline, so you can really feel like total after masturbating, especially if you're doing this in a chronic and abusive nature. Ultimately, what this can do is lead to inhibiting the process of finding a healthy partner, a healthy mate, because instead of, once again, if your dopamine system is screwed up and you're getting all of this dopamine release from masturbating and watching other people have sex, you will not have that drive to go out and try to meet other mates, to try to go out and, meet other people and socialize and have that actually healthy sexual interaction between two consenting people. There's also evidence that the actual stimulus for sexual arousal gets less and less as you continue to masturbate, especially to this more hardcore stuff. And so, I've said it before, but you start off and you're watching, I don't know, busty college girls, and then next thing you know, you're watching a 29-person gangbang, and you have to watch this more intense stuff to get those same dopamine rises that you are used to. And that is literally where you get into the addiction process, where you want it more, but you're actually liking it less, okay? What that can do is lead to problems with the actual arousal stimulus. And so when it does come time for you to get sexually involved with your partner, and it's not a 29-person gangbang, you can't get hard because you have hardwired your brain that that's what you need to get hard, okay? Speaking of peak performance, me and BD, we made our own supplement. I personally designed this based on real scientific evidence for things that are going to increase your nitric oxide levels. Nitric oxide is what's responsible for erection. So it's called VIGOR. It's currently on Amazon Prime. Guys, it's about to sell out. I love the support. We've already ordered more, but it's about to sell out. And so if you want some, check it out now on Amazon. It's getting excellent reviews. It really works as far as maximizing both penile health, amazing erections, and of course, amazing workouts as well. So if you want to check it out, it's also available in Leviathan Sups. It happens to sell out on Amazon. We do have a few more on the website, especially for international shipping, but back to our regularly scheduled programming. When we're talking about the dopaminergic system, we're talking about addiction as well. And so what they've studied is you can actually wire a rat's brain with little electrodes in the pleasure center, okay? And then have them have a lever. And the lever gives them a response to that reward system. If you leave the rat alone, it will continue to pull the lever, and just keep pleasuring that reward system. It won't eat, it won't sleep, it won't procreate, it won't watch after its kin. And so that's what the addictive behavior is. Once again, that's where you can get into that pathway, especially with things like masturbation and porn, where you don't go out, you don't socialize, you just sit at home and you masturbate, and it can screw up that system. How do you know what your dopamine level is? There's a lot of other factors that can contribute to this, but in general, if your dopamine level is balanced, you're going to feel happy, you're going to feel motivated, you're going to feel alert, and you're going to feel focused. A lot of things can contribute to that not being the case. But if you have low dopamine, you often feel tired, unmotivated, and unhappy, quite frankly. You can also have other things like memory loss, mood swings, poor sleep, and poor concentration. And you just don't feel good. Like nothing feels pleasurable to you. Some people call this anhedonia, which is a medical condition which might not be directly related to dopamine, but I digress. And so the point is, if you're feeling any of these things, especially that lack of motivation to go out and do things, your dopamine system could be screwed up, especially if you're engaging in these highly pleasurable activities like social media, video games, sex, pornography, okay, masturbation. And so how does this impact PE? For my purposes, PE is going to be talking about penile enlargement. And so if you, for example, are doing girth exercises where you're clamping or pumping for that matter and engaging in consuming large quantities of pornography, that can screw up your dopaminergic system, as I've already described. And so especially if you're pumping for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and during that whole process, you're just consuming porn, that can be a big problem. And so if your dopamine system is screwed up, that can impact your erection quality overall. And we all know that erection quality is not good for any kind of PE. Once again, you're just going to be draining that dopaminergic system. And so your overall zest for life can decrease. So what are some of my tips to avoid that dopamine depletion? I'd say masturbate only if necessary for the penile engorgement, but if you can, avoid orgasm. Really what takes you over the top, that big spike in dopamine occurs with orgasm, and then it drops off dramatically afterwards. And so if you avoid that orgasm peak, you can still have, a spike in your dopamine, it still feels good, but you avoid that huge peak and that huge crater afterwards. I've said this before, use your own material. Instead of watching other people have sex, if you have a healthy partner, maybe maybe, if it's consensual, record some of the encounters, and that way you're not training your brain on other people's encounters. It's actually your own encounter, and you're using more of your memory to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, that's me. Like, and even in some cases, it's like, I want to go do that again because I enjoyed that so much. And so you keep that motivation, okay? This also avoids the dysmorphia from porn, okay? You might be feeling good about yourself, and then you go on and look at, some guy that due to camera angles and trickery looks like he has a 14-inch D. That can really screw with your head. There's also alternatives to actual visual pornography, like audio or even literary imagery. And so for those that haven't seen it, there's a subreddit called r/Gone Wild Audio. And it's these literally scripted, actors that perform, erotica, but it is, once again, still playing on that dopamine system, but to a less extent as something like video or even pictures for that matter. This is a big one here. Only masturbate once you've earned it, okay? So in order to not screw up your dopamine system, that reward system, that motivation system, you have to make it so it's worth your time. So for some people, this might be, they're trying to engage in, PE exercises, but just don't have the motivation to do it. You do your PE routine and you can masturbate as a reward right there. That's gonna help keep a healthy dopamine system pathway. For other people, it might be like, I need to clean the room, clean out my garage and wash the dishes, and then you can masturbate afterwards as the reward. Once again, that's still more of a healthy type of process. I still say that the real world is better, okay? So if you can avoid porn altogether, do that. Another key thing is that, if possible, if you're gonna be masturbating to pornography, have a real world partner so you don't get locked down that pathway. I think the guys are the most susceptible to getting in trouble are the guys that don't have partners and just masturbate to this hardcore pornography all day. That can really screw you up. So go out there and find a partner that you like, or as best you can, and that way it keeps you grounded in reality. It doesn't go down that dopamine depleting pathway. Things that can raise dopamine, so actually things that induce pain, believe it or not. And so there's a pain and pleasure kind of balance. If you engage in things that are highly painful, after that is concluded, actually you can have significant rises in dopamine as well. So for example, ice baths, okay? There's literature showing that ice baths can improve dopamine levels. Actually fasting, okay? So when you fast all day, you really crave delicious food by the end of the fast. And so then when you finally get to that food, you can have these big levels of dopamine. For those who've never fasted before, I guarantee you food has never tasted so good than if you try to do even a 12, sometimes even 8-hour fast. I fast for 24 hours at a time. And by the time that 24th hour comes, whatever I'm eating is amazing. That can help keep healthy dopamine pathways. Then in general, there's things that are called dopamine fasts. And so even things like a notification on your phone, guys, that's spiking your dopamine, whether it be social media or text message from your friend, whatever it may be. And so isolating yourself, like moving your phone to a different room while you're working, deleting all your social media apps for a week, once again, intermittent fasting, things like that. By removing that highly pleasurable activity, even for a short period of time, you can help restore natural balance to that dopamine pathway. Exercising can establish a healthy dopamine pathway that's been demonstrated in literature. And things, of course, like a balanced diet, high in magnesium and tyrosine-rich foods, which dopamine uses those to form the backbone of its structure. And then honestly, just doing healthy things that you like, and healthy things that you enjoy, like exercise, meditation, yoga, playing with a pet, walks in nature, etc. So if you want to quit, any of these unhealthy behaviors, how do you do so? Well, first of all, you need to find your triggers. And so if it's like, porn, for example, and you're on social media and you come across some chick that's very scantily clad on Instagram, and that's a trigger to get, to go masturbate, then delete Instagram, okay? Or recognize that trigger that, oh gosh, I'm seeing this, be aware of it, and then find a different behavior instead of going to masturbate. Every time you feel this, you're gonna, go on the ground and do 10 push-ups or something like that. You wanna make the highly pleasurable activity as inaccessible as possible. So if you're addicted to porn, create, firewalls, create blocks of the actual pornography websites, and so you can't go to them easily. And then you can even do things like brainwashing yourself. So guys, it's all about balance, but I do think pornography in general is very bad and very unhealthy for almost all men. I think that's a huge reason why ED, erectile dysfunction rates, are skyrocketing. About 1 in 4 erectile dysfunction cases in America are men under 40. It's crazy, guys, and I do think a lot of that is to porn. So if you can continue to tell yourself how bad it is, you can be aware of what you need to do to curb that behavior. If you made it this far, guys, I certainly would appreciate a like on this video. It helps me know that what I'm doing is worth my time, and maybe even that you learned something from this. Side note, guys, I'm not necessarily team FAP or team like no FAP completely. I'm definitely not team semen retention. I believe that there's balance and moderation. Believe it or not, studies have actually shown that ejaculation on a regular basis can actually decrease your risk of prostate cancer. I just think most importantly, you need to be aware of how these things like masturbation and pornography can affect the dopamine system, okay? So what are my conclusions? What are my takeaways? When you have big triggers in your reward system without actually working for it, that's when you can get effed up, okay? That's why you see a lot of these like kids of the super wealthy are really effed up because their dopamine pathway is screwed up because they haven't, in some cases, had to work for it, okay? And so if you're gonna engage in any highly pleasurable activity that spikes that dopamine, make sure you're working for it in some regard, okay? You want a tasty burger? Make sure you go get a workout before you go eat that burger. Once again, I am not saying no fat necessarily. I'm not saying that porn is unequivocally bad. It is just a very, very potent stimulus that you need to be aware of and how it can affect your dopaminergic system. And you need to control your experiences so you don't go overboard. You don't go into addiction or dysfunction, okay? And finally, pain and pleasure are kind of on a balance. And so along with that, like earning it, it's kind of like, you know, working for it is almost like the pain that you have to put in to enjoy the pleasure afterwards. And so, you know, just be aware of, once again, when you have highly pleasurable activities without working for it, you're at the risk of screwing yourself up, okay? Guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I appreciate you watching. If you need to reach me directly, check out my Patreon. I do phone and sometimes even video chats, okay? VIGOR is available now. Please get it before it sells out. We have Virility, our other product, which is dropping any day now, okay? This is a supplement that not only maximizes your semen volume, it also improves your overall semen health, sperm health, and even semen taste, believe it or not. It is available for pre-order now at leviathansubs.com. Should be available literally any day now. Do your own research, form your own conclusions, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.